Ohio State football talk here each and every Wednesday. We typically do it at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop, Steve Hillwagon from Bucknuts, and Kevin Noon from Buckeye Grove. David Greenshield has hit me with this a few times, so I will pass this one on. He's high on the wide receivers, and why not? He has pinned me to the wall on this is the best wide receiver group in the country, right, Mark? And I've said, let me look it over. I believe it is. He really liked Ted Ginn, Santonio Holmes, and Anthony Gonzalez, but this group is much deeper. Tony?
Well, yeah, it's deeper. That 05 group also had Brian Hartline as a true freshman. I think Robisky maybe as a true freshman. Devin Lyons, Albert Dukes as well. David was forgetting those guys.
The Dukes. It was the Dukes. It was the Dukes.
But yeah, it's deeper than that group, and you even Olave and Wilson have already bested Ginn and Holmes in terms of numbers. What they did last year in 9 games is basically, or 8 games is basically what Ginn and Holmes would do in 13 or 14, 13 under Trussell. So yeah, that's a really good group, but I think you're talking about an OSU receiver room right now that could legitimately have 7 guys that could play anywhere, certainly in the Big Ten and anywhere else in the country, and be in that lineup. And so it's going to be up to Brian Hartline to get those guys all playing time this year. But I think it's too early or maybe irresponsible to say it's the best in OSU history. But I don't think anybody will be surprised if it is the best in OSU history this year, and especially moving Jackson Smith and Jigba into the slot. Since Urban Meyer arrived in 2012, that position has produced like 54 catches a year, the starter. And so you're talking if Jackson Smith and Jigba gets 54, you've got Olave with 60 or 70, Garrett Wilson with 60 or 70, and then Jamison Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. and all of these other guys that are talented in their own right. So it would be irresponsible to say it's the best ever. So I'll leave it up to somebody else to say that, but I will then agree with them.
It's the best ever.
I agree.
But we're in a different era right now. When we sit there and we looked at that brief hiccup where they had a quarterback in Troy Smith who was proficient with the downfield pass and everything else, and then went back into some Michigan type of offense where they couldn't throw the ball it's very different now to where year in and year out you're able to bring in these quarterbacks that are able to do so many things, and that's what allows you to be able to put these types of receiver rooms together. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Brian Hartline, Ryan Day, whatever, but you need to have the quarterbacks there. And I'm not going to pick on any specific quarterback of the past, but if you're a 5-star receiver and you are around the time of the clown show offense where 14 receptions led the team, that's kind of a waste of your talents or whatnot. But now Ohio State's able to sit there and be able to point to a Justin Fields, point to Dwayne Haskins, et cetera, and say these are the type of numbers we can put up. And that certainly makes Ohio State a much more attractive destination when they're going out and getting the Marvin Harrison Jr.'s of the world or the Emeka Egbukas or guys like that. And then it's just going to continue on here in 22 and 23 where they have Caleb Burton out of Texas, and they've got Keon Gray's out of Arizona, and they're already looking like they're going to start probably lining up what's going to be a pretty good receiver class in 23. So, we can sit here and talk about Olave and Wilson, but, we could be doing, Ohio State Buckeyes edition 204 here a couple years from now, and that at that moment in time, that might be the best receiver class just because of you have Harrison and Egbuka who are older. You have some of these other guys, and they just continue growing from there.
Let's not forget about the 2015 team that Michael Thomas, Jalen Marshall, Braxton Miller, Curtis Samuel, Dontre Wilson, Corey Smith, even guys like Johnny Dixon and Paris Campbell and Terry McLaurin who weren't doing anything yet. But that's 6 NFL guys right there in that room. Now, they weren't that yet, and they weren't as productive as I think these guys will be, like in terms of there's more guys that can be called upon and put in that rotation. 2014 team had 6 guys in the rotation. They all played, and that was a really good group too, with Devin Smith and Evan Spencer in that group. Even though Evan Spencer, I think, had like 9 or 14 catches that year, but still a good group. But I think these guys overall are going to produce. You'll be able to ask more from more of them this year.
I would tap the brakes on best ever. I think, first of all, you have young quarterbacks throwing them the football, so they may not necessarily reach their fruition or their greatest amount of catches or whatever. They'll probably do pretty well. But I think that, again, what we saw on Saturday, this wasn't Harrison and Egbuka going out there against Jeffrey Okudah and Sean Wade and Kendall Sheffield and, NFL cornerbacks. This was against guys, their age or a year older who were just trying to learn their position too, for the most part. So, tap the brakes a little bit. Polish, yes. Marvin Harrison, very polished. Emeka Egbuka, yes, looks like he belongs and could make a tremendous difference this year. Smith the Jigba, yes, looks like he's improved from the little glimpses that we saw last season. Jameson Williams, to me, somewhat still of an enigma. First play of the game, ball goes right off his hands. Now, it may have been a little behind him from Jack Miller. I'd have to go back and watch it with a forensic microscope to see where the ball was placed and everything. From our vantage point, 20 stories in the air, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's going on down there, even with binoculars. But I need to see more out of him. I need to see more consistency before I proclaim or declare him anything at this point. And I think Smith the Jigba's moved by him for the number 3 wide receiver spot if you put him on a totem pole and rank them 1 through 6 or 8 or whatever. So I think he's got the potential still to be part of this. I mean, deep ball against Clemson, the kid can play, but he's got to do it on an every game, every play basis. And I don't think we've seen that yet. Some of that's youth. And again, you got a complete X factor here with Julian Fleming. If he gets healthy and is able to get back in there in the fall, what does he add to this group? And now they're more than 5 or 6 deep. They could be 7 deep. So I want to see which direction it takes and get him healthy. According to them, they said he's never been healthy since he got to Ohio State a year ago. So, hopefully they can get him rehabbed and get him ready to go for the fall.
I just want to, I understand what Steve's saying about tapping the brakes, but, I think that Ohio State doesn't necessarily, unless you're Olave or Wilson, they don't throw a lot of 50-50 balls or whatever. So much of their offense is these short throws and, yards after catch or whatever. And I think that you're going to see Harrison and you're going to see Egbuka as guys that are going to be able, if given the opportunity, which I think they'll get some opportunity to be able to to do that. So it's going to be more important for them to sit there and make sure that they understand that they're running good routes, they understand levels and things of that nature. But I can understand not wanting here in April to get so far in advance and saying that this is going to be the class, but I really have a hard time getting away from it. I know that over at Buckeye Grove, one of our writers wrote a piece about where does this receiver room sit all time, and it really got me thinking about it. And I put a couple hours in really looking at the classes, and barring a complete meltdown, barring just major underperformance at the quarterback position, I think we're going to see just some production numbers that are going to be hard to beat.
Egbuka, for me, made the catch of the day. When you think about all the momentum going toward the slant or the skinny post route, and all of a sudden he spins his body and he's like halfway on the ground and he's stretching out completely the other direction and making that catch. And as Steve said, he and Harrison both looked the part, and Harrison even more so to me looks the part, physically looks like he's a junior. And I don't remember who he was matched up with down near the goal line. And he will face tougher corners, but still it looked like it was just like he's just going to block somebody out and be able to do whatever he wants from not just a skill standpoint, but from his frame already. Usually those guys really need to hit the weights, but Benjamin Victor. But for Harrison, man, he looks good.
Well, and that touchdown pass, I want to go back to that real quick because that also incorporates something I liked about CJ Stroud. And I tweeted this out the other day. Before that play, like as that play is lining up, CJ Stroud goes and talks to Joe Royer, the tight end on the left side, and just easy. He's like, goes up, walks up, talks to him, then gets back to get the snap, takes a snap, and is looking Joe Royer's way, freezes the linebackers, and then comes back and throws that slant to Marvin Harrison. And had he not frozen the linebackers and kept, it's Kayvon Pope who is, he gets drawn back inside and then the throw goes outside of him and he can't get back there. So when we're talking about earlier in the show, who has the best command of the offense, to me, that was a significant play and maybe just simple in terms of the quarterbacking and every quarterback does it, but it stood out to me there. And then Marvin Harrison, nobody touched him on that one. I mean, he got off the line so easily. And he's just really, really smooth. I've said this before other places. He reminds me of Justin Ross, his freshman year at Clemson. I'm not saying he's going to catch 1,000 yards, but he's just a big, long receiver, smooth at what he does. I don't know if he's going to be much of a deep threat like Justin Ross was early in his career, but we did see him get open deep in this one. I think Kyle McCord underthrew him. There's just a lot he could do. And he only averaged 7 yards a catch in the spring game, but it was more significant than that. It was the way he did it and just how easily and effortlessly. And as you said, he totally looks the part. He's 6'4", 205, 210, somewhere in there. And, you mentioned Ben Victor. It just the years of maybe with another year in the weight room and he'll be able to do it. And I don't think he ever looked any different than he did from day one.
Give him one more year.
210 pounds is 1.5 Ben Victors. I mean, because he just never was able to fill that frame out or whatever. And again, that didn't exclude him from making plays. I mean, I think that touchdown he had at Penn State over the middle, and he's still running, on that one. Well, that is probably one of the most underrated huge touchdowns in the last 20 years in Ohio State history.
Yep.
But I think that everybody, when they saw him coming out of Coconut Creek, Florida, thought he was going to put on 25, 30 pounds, maintain the speed, and it just, never really happened. He still made the plays, but, he never really quite realized the potential that everybody thought was there.
Kevin, how would we describe him? He was like a baby deer
taking his first step, sort of like a freshman LaQuinton Ross out there in basketball or whatever.
Yeah.
Just a little timid, not quite sure, a little wobbly in the knees.
Little wobbly.
Ben Victor was running sprints, I guess, in the weight room. Nobody told him that he needed to be actually hitting the weights. It's about the details.